You don't know?
I think there were 18 of them, maybe? Maybe more? Maybe more? I don't know. I don't know, there were a lot of them, Baruch Hashem. A lot of short people, and they're just cute.
Did you ever rent a car from Fugazi Lincoln Continental in New York?
I drive a Lincoln. I only drive a Lincoln. I won't be seen in anything else.
True.
Okay, let's go. We have a mimer to finish. I do remember a story. I'll just tell you a quick story that I was waiting to take someone to the Rebbe for dollars. Someone who used to support the yeshiva that I was involved in before Mayanot existed. And so in those days there were no cell phones, and you used to wait in front of 770 until they showed up, right? And you just waited. We waited a lot in those days, you know. So we waited, and we had made up at 2:15, whatever. So at 2:15 I was outside. About 2:20, this huge stretch limousine pulls up. There's all sorts of shluchim standing out front waiting for people to take them into the Rebbe. Huge stretch limo gets out. Guy pops out. Hey, Baruch, how are you? Gives me a big hug and a kiss. And I said, Kaplan's got a big fish here. So I said, David, what was that? He said, this huge thing. He said, I don't know. I got out of the airport. He came from Toronto. I got out of the airport from LaGuardia. I asked, how much is a cab to Crown Heights? $25. Then I saw this guy. I said, oh, why not? How much are you to take me to Crown Heights? $25. It's $25. I'll go with this guy. So it was this huge thing that you only see in America. It was enormous. Yeah, and he popped out.
He said, you think there's a line for the Rebbe after.
But I'll tell you, we're gonna finish the mind, but I'm gonna tell you a quick story about that. He told, when I saw him in Toronto on Thursday, he said, I told him, why don't you meet me in New York on Sunday? I'll take you to the Rebbe. He said, nah. He said these words, I'm a misnag. The guy's not even full, but he says, I'm a misnag. I said, why are you a misnag? He said, because when I'm in Florida, there's a Chabad house a block away, I walk to the misnagdim a mile away. I said, you're talking misnagid? Okay, so I don't understand, but you should come. How much time will I get with the Rebbe? He said, 45 seconds. 45 seconds? I got 45 minutes with the Bubba of a Rebbe. I said, it's not happening, Devin, but 45 seconds. Fine, so we're talking about this is a man who's wealthy, but gives much more money to tzedakah than he, according to his earning. He's given an incredible amount of money to tzedakah. So then he found an excuse to be in New York. So he said, okay, I'll meet you Sunday. So we went by the Rebbe. 45. She says, come to my hotel with me in Manhattan. We get in a cab, we drive to his hotel. He says, I want to see the Rebbe again. How do I do it?
Wow.
I said, what do you mean? He said, but I don't want 45 seconds. I want a couple of minutes. How do I do it? And the only way to do it is Machne Yisrael. In those days, the Machne Yisrael Fund. Well, the Machne Yisrael Fund was a fund that businessmen would join the fund, so to speak. We'll talk about how that happened. And then twice a year, the Rebbe would see just them as a group, and then they would go by the Rebbe, and you see videos of husbands and wives talking to the Rebbe for 2-3 minutes. That's always Machne Yisrael, because in dollars, husbands and wives didn't go by together. So he says, well, how do I get into Machne Yisrael? I says, $250,000, $50,000 a year for 5 years. I'm in.
Wow.
This is a guy on Thursday told me I'm a misnagid. He walked by the Rebbe. He was by the Rebbe for 30 seconds. He said, I'm willing to spend $250,000 to have a couple of minutes with this man. Now, unfortunately, that happened in the winter of Tafshin Nun Beis. And then the Rebbe had a stroke. And, I was very happy that he was willing to do this, and I thought this was good for him, but I'm a completely selfish person and think only about myself. And the advantage for me was the shaliach that brings someone to Machne Yisrael gets to go to those meetings with the Rebbe and also have a yichidus with the Rebbe. So I was very excited about that because I was not, a big fundraiser. I wasn't raising Machne Yisrael level money. So, but it didn't ever happen. But that was David by the Rebbe for 30 seconds. And it's interesting because I sent him a video. He's in a state of complete bittul. He's standing there like this. So interesting. He said, I'm a misnagid on Thursday. Okay, let's go. Let's finish our mind. V'zeh gam, the end of Zion, on page Chaf Beis. V'zeh gam ma shezman shel neres Chanukah ad shetichla regel min hashuk. Right? It says in the Gemara that you start lighting at Shkia, but when do you stop? That little Gemara we learned at the very, very beginning of our Hanukkah Gemaras, ad shetichla regel min hashuk. Until there's no more foot in the market. In other words, until people aren't walking around, so there's no more pirsum nisa. And what do Chazal say? How do they explain that line in the Baraisa? Ad the kalya rigla de Tarmudai. Until the feet of the Tarmudai. And who are the Tarmudai? The Tarmudai are those people who are found in the market at the end of the day, gathering up the last little things in the market because they're the poorest people around. But obviously there's a panemius to all that. Tarmudai, the Rebbe says, Heim hamerdim b'malchus shemayim. They're the ones who rebel against the kingdom of heaven. Tarmud, the word Tarmud, Tarmudai, Oisius meredis, someone who is mered, someone who's rebellious. Meaning the Chanukah licht is so powerful that it wipes out the most rebellious people. V'hein misakvim b'shuk. Where are they? They're in the shuk. What's the shuk? We saw this earlier. Bechinas Reshus Rabim, the public domain. What's the public domain in Panemius? Torah de Pruda, the place of separation, meaning a place where Reshus Yochid, in Halacha we know what a Reshus Yochid is, a private domain, but Reshus Yochid in Panemius is the place of God's oneness, a place where God's oneness is revealed. Reshus Rabim is a place where that oneness is concealed, so one is very aware of the multiplicity of reality. Right, so that's Ture de Pruda. Ture are mountains, right? Mountains of separation, a place of separation. And what's the power of Ner Chanukah? Val Yedei Ner Chanukah Nasa Kilya Rigla Tarmudai. It brings about a doing away with the legs of the Tarmudai. Does away with rebellion. It's a light that's so powerful it penetrates into the Yid and brings them closer to the Eibishter. The Shnei Perushim B'Sen, the word Kalya. Right, the word Kalya is a very interesting word. It's either v'yichulu, to finish, or kiloyan, kilyan and nefesh, is the destruction of the soul. Not the finishing of the soul, but the destruction of the soul. Meaning, on a positive level, kilyan and nefesh is when the soul leaves the body, so to speak, because of its closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. She'or de Ner Chanukah, the light of Ner Chanukah, mechala, destroys, umevato, nullifies this rigla de Tarmudai, the legs of the Tarmudai, meaning the whole notion of rebellion, such a powerful light. V'shor de Ner Chanukah pel hakilayon, or something better. Kilayon is what? Klaya miloshin kilayon v'kloisa nefesh. Kloisa nefesh is the soul is so enraptured that it loses sense of self. So it can also, that happened at Matan Torah by our soul leaving our body. Gam berigla de Tarmudai. Not only it doesn't destroy them, but elevates them to a level of kloisa nefesh. Shegama mordim, even the ones who rebel against the Kadosh Baruch Hu, Yavei lebechinas kloisa nefesh, will come to a point of kloisa nefesh, a point of being powerfully aware of their connection to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's the power of Ner Chanukah, and that's why first it's lit, it's shkia in order to illuminate the dark. And to what extent does it illuminate the dark? It has to stay lit. It has to be pale, that which it's supposed to be pale, which is to bring about kalya rigla tarmudai, to do away with all rebellion, to do away with all pretense of something other than elokus. Kol anal, based on all of this, yuvan hafer gleich, we can understand the comparison. The neres Chanukah l'sukkos upare chag. Now we're going to answer the question about sukkos. Right, we had to get there. Right, the connection between neres Chanukah and sukkos, not just the 8, but deeper. Yes, also 8. Right, ki inyan sukkos. The whole inyan of sukkos is, and we learned about this sukkos time. V'gam inyan parei chag, and we'll see how it's also relevant to the parei chag and how it's relevant to the parei chag, the bullocks of sukkos. Sukkos is all about his galus hamakifim. Rosh and Yom Kippur are days of tremendous inspiration. Right? But they obviously don't bring about a true change in me. I don't change. I'm not a different person after Yom Kippur. After Mitzvah Yom Kippur, I have to, be careful not to revert back to exactly the same behavior patterns that I had Erev Yom Kippur. Right? I've definitely reached a state of inspiration through these days of Rosh and Yom Kippur. There's no question about that. And probably made certain hachlatas that are reasonable hachlatas. And there's certainly a leftover reshima of the inspiration such that I'll probably keep those hachlotas for a few days, right, without it being so overly difficult. Okay, but we know it's going to wear off. Okay, well, it doesn't exactly wear off. I mean, hopefully. Why? Well, because the Eibishter gave us another gift called Sukkot right after Kippur. What's Sukkot all about? So first of all, we spend 4 days so busy preparing for Sukkot, we don't have time to do anything out of, anything shtuti, right? There's a limit how much shtus you can do when you're busy buying a lulav and building building a sukkah, and you might even be helping your wife to peel some potatoes. Don't touch the food, but just peel the potatoes, right? Whatever it is you have to do. So you're very, very busy those days. Then comes Sukkot. What's Sukkot? Sukkot takes the inspiration of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur and brings it down into Pnimius. A sukkah is a makif. It surrounds you, literally, but you sit in it. Yeshiva Shabasukkah. What's the yeshiva? Is hityashvut, settledness, to bring the makif into Pnimius. And that's the whole idea of shaking the lulav. What are you doing with shaking the lulav? You're bringing all of that koyach into your lave. That's why you're makkah the lulav next to your heart. And what you did with the al-chet on Yom Kippur with mariras, you do with simcha with the lulav. So the whole idea of Sukkot is to bring the inspiration of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur down into physical reality, so it expresses itself through our actions in Olam Hazeh. Mitzvahs all day long. Sukkot. They have to give us a mavar from the complete holiness of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur to the mundane reality of going back to work. The mavar is involving ourselves in Gashmias all day long. We're sitting in a sukkah, we're eating food. It's a Gashmiastic holiday. But the Gashmias is dafka all elevated to a level of revealed elokus. Just sitting in the sukkah, you're bringing Mekayim mitzvah. What are you doing? I'm eating a banana. You're bringing Mekayim mitzvah by eating a banana or eating a piece of cake in the sukkah. So it's Misgalus HaMakifin, it's the revelation of the Makifin. The Schach also represents two things: the physical representation of the 100 Keilos of the Shofar. Schach is 60, 20, 20, Samach Chaf Chaf, which are the 60 Tkiyas, the 20 Shvarim, and the 20 Truos that we blow. What do they look like in Gashmias? That's what Tkiyas Shofar looks like in Gashmias. Bring it down into Gashmias Mamish. Right. It's also the clouds of the Keteris, the Ananei Keteris that was brought into the Kodesh Kedoshim on Yom Kippur. It's all brought into Gashmis. That's Sukkot. But Dugmas Sukkah, Kapshuta, like Sukkah itself. Shemakefes al Adam. It's makif. It surrounds us. Ubeshmini de Sukkos. What Shmini de Sukkos? Nimshachim amakifim v'neatzarim gam b'pnimius. Shmini Atzeres is the ultimate expression of bringing the Shmini into a state of Atzeres. What's Atzeres? It's gathered. It's, what does it say on a sign when on the street here in this country when you have to stop? Otzer, stop, meaning it's limiting it. It's bringing it into Pnimius. Shmini Atzeres is bringing the Makif into Pnimius Mamish. Dafka, the 8th level, interesting enough. So we said, but wait, the 8th is transcendence. So how can the 8th be all about Pnimius? The 8th is all about transcendence. So that's what the Rebbe is going to explain. Shmini the Sukkos nimshachim amakifim v'ne'etzarim. They're, so to speak, stopped. They're limited. Gamba Pnimius, also into Pnimius. But dugmas ha'avodah Mesiras Nefesh, like the avodah of Mesiras Nefesh of Chanukah. What does that do? Shepei Elis, it brings about. V'choider, causes. V'choideres, and penetrates. B'kol koyches nefesh. Mesiras Nefesh is, as we talked about in the last two shiurim, is all about taking the makif of Etzim and Neshama. It's a superconscious state of reality, but bringing it into my consciousness. And once I bring it into my consciousness, I realize that it's the Pnimius of my consciousness. It's not just the Pnimius. It's not just the superconscious state of reality. Chaya Shebenefesh is only superconscious. Right? Etzim is the Etzim of every level of the Neshama. So the Etzim of Nefesh is also Etzim and Neshama. Right? Okay, so once I bring that level into Pnimius, it becomes mamish, the true reality of every level of me. So just like Mesiras Nefesh brings the highest level into Pnimius, into conscious expression, so too Shmini Atzeres. V'zeu mashish.
Can I just, how are you touching Haderes?
Penetrate.
Penetrate.
Lachdor is to penetrate. V'zeu, and that's what it says. That's what we understand. Masha Shneim, both of them, Sukkot v'Chanukah Shmoni Yomim. They're both a makif, but they're a makif that comes into Pneumius. Oh, so we saw about both of them. Now, this is obvious about Sukkot, but it's also there in Hanukkah. They're really, what are they really all about? They're really not about 8. I mean, they are about 8. But both of them have a reality of 7 and 1. Certainly Sukkot, that's obvious. There's 7 days and then the 8th day. Also Hanukkah. We said, well, according to most Rishonim, one day of Hanukkah has nothing to do with the candles. Right? One day of Hanukkah is either the war or finding the Pach Shemen. Right? So there's a certain aspect of 1 and 7 even in Hanukkah. It's absolutely revealed in Sukkot. There's 7 days and then 1 day. Okay. The Misbar Shmeina who Aleph and Zion. Aleph, what's the Aleph of Shmeina? That's Shalamayla Mishtal Shalus. That's the level of Hashem Echad, which is completely beyond the natural order, absolute oneness, absolute transcendence. His Nimshach is drawn down into Zion Mishtal Shalus. The idea of 8 isn't to transcend physical reality, it's to bring transcendent reality into physical reality, bring about a revelation of transcendence in immanent reality. That's 8. That's the most powerful expression of 8. That's Mesiras Nefesh, that's Hanukkah, that's also, we're going to see, that's also Sukkot. U'kamei ner Hanukkah peil gam beriglit tarmudai b'shnei inyanim. So just like the Ner Hanukkah affects the riglit tarmudai, the whole notion of merida, the whole notion of rebellion, b'shnei inyanim on 2 different levels. Shebetchilo, what does he first do? Mechala mevatel esam, first is level of bittul. But that's not enough. Ultimately, he has to elevate it. And afterwards, he affects them. They'll also be transformed into kedusha. They'll experience klais and nefesh. Al derech zeh, in this way, yugam bakrovas ayin parei chag shekeneged shivim u'maseilim. So interesting what the Rebbe is about to say. The parei chag, what are they? So we talked about it a little bit. We mentioned it, right? Because the parei chag correspond to the shivim u'mas. Right? There's 70 of them. 13 plus 12 plus 11 plus 10 plus 9 plus 8 plus 7 is 70. Okay? Take the extremes, 13 plus 7, 12 plus 8, 11 plus 9, and the 10 in the middle. Okay? It's 70. Take my word for it, or you can do it yourself. It's not a problem. Right? It's 70. It's very easy mathematics. Okay. So it corresponds to the Shivim Umas, 70 nations of the world. So on one hand, they're part of the Aved in the Beis HaMikdash. They're there. And Sukkot was the time when everybody could bring karbonos. Right? On the other hand, the idea of going from 13 to 7 is to diminish their negativity, to diminish that aspect of them which is negative. So there's less and less and less of that aspect. Oh, okay, beautiful. So that's the 7. That's the 7 of Sukkot. Okay, so what comes as a result of that? I would say something that's just so amazing. Al derech zeh gamba akrovas ayin parei chag shekeneged shivim u'maseilim, that correspond to the shivim u'maseilim. It's a Gemara in Sukkot. That's footnote 69. Shebetchilo, at first, what does it do? Pe'elis hakrova, this sacrificing brings about she'umas yu peichsim hilchim, that they should continually diminish, meaning the negative aspect of them should diminish. Ve'achar kach, afterwards, pe'elis behem, it brings about them shegam heim yisayu liYisrael. Not only will they not be negative, they'll be part of the positive, they'll be elevated to the positive and assist in the expression of positive. I know that we know that's what's going to happen in Beis Mashiach. K'maimer Chazal, ilu hayu umas ha'olam yodim. If the umas ha'olam were to know ma haya hamikdash yofa lehem, how beautiful the mikdash is for them. In other words, how the Beis HaMikdash brings bracha into the world, and that bracha is shared by everyone in the world. Kasatrios are battalions. Kasatrias hayu makifin, say they would set up battalions to surround it, kedei l'shemer, in order to guard it. If the Umas Ha'olam appreciated what the Beis HaMikdash was, they wouldn't destroy it; they'd protect it because it's good for the world, and they're part of the world. It brings bracha into the world. Dal yedei. So now what? So what's Sukkos? Shal Yadei Shepoilim Behem Inyan Dishafcha, by virtue of the fact that you bring about in the Umaseilim the notion of Ishafcha, transforming them into Kedusha. They're now part of the base of Migdash. You've taken. Now, what's the source of negative reality? So you know this by saying Keteris every day. The source of negative reality is the 11th level. It is a level, that's the level of Masavusa. That's why one of the 11 ingredients in the Keteris had a terrible smell, right? Because what's the idea? The idea is to take the 11th level. What's the 11th level? It's a level of Makif. Right? Where does evil come from? Where does negative reality come from? It comes from a makif that can't be expressed in a kli properly, and so it expresses itself in toyu, in chaos, shvir sekelim. When or is mislavish in a kli, so it expresses itself in a healthy and proper way. When the or is too powerful to be expressed in the kli, so then it can break the kli, or just not be expressed in the kli. Therefore, it's going to express itself in a rather chaotic way. Right? Now, that doesn't mean it's always negative, but that's the source of negative reality. Okay, so the one of the Mashalim brought, and we talked about this way back, maybe in Zay School, because I don't remember, right? The idea of the sun, right? The sun shines. So the sun is an incredibly powerful light. So it's a light that on a certain level is a little too powerful to be brought into Kalim, even though down here in Eilam Hazeh, on a certain level, it is mislavish in Kalim to the extent that it provides the green in flowers and it gives us heat and light, etc. Okay. But the sun is a makif, and that makif shines equally on the wheat field to make the wheat grow and on the garbage to make it stink. Right? That heat of the sun, you walk by the garbage in the heat of the summer, whoa, you could faint. Same sun. But it's making, there's a wheat field right here. As a matter of fact, I can take that stuff and spread it in the wheat field and make it grow, but right now it really stinks. Okay, right, that's the sun. That's a makif. A makif is uncontrolled, so it can express itself in all sorts of ways, and many of those ways are negative. That's the chaos. That's the toyu of shvir sekelim. Okay, so that's the source of the negative reality of Umaseilim. Okay, so it's a makif. When we say sukkah is all about bringing the makif into pnimius. So now there's a power to the makif. If you can harness the power of we talked about earlier, nefesh b'amis, Rav Tvuris B'Keirach Hashor, we say, right? That if I can harness the Nefesh B'Hamitz, I'm going to do just fine, because Nefesh B'Hamitz is very, very powerful. But it has to be expressed in a positive way. Okay, so then what's Sukkah all about? To harness the power of Umas Eilam, transform it. So what happens as a result? Misvasef al Yodam, therefore it brings about an increase through them, Siyu Agam B'Kedusha, an assistance also in Kedusha, which is Shmiras HaMikdash. That'll be Shmiras HaMikdash. That'll be in Gashmias, that they'll guard the Mikdash, because they'll see the advantage of Kedusha. But keep reading. Al derech sheyeh losid lava. That's going to happen in Yimei Mashiach. Kashaz efach elamin. Suffer brura, right? Then I will transform the nations into a clear voice. La'avdei shchem echad, and everybody will worship God together. Hine az va'amdu zarim, then they will stand, strangers, ru'ut zeinchem, and they'll shepherd your sheep so that you can go sit and learn Torah and bring korbanos and be involved in the avodah in the base of Mikdash. But in one line, the Rebbe says an unbelievable idea about the sukkahs. Al derech hakravas ayin parim, shekeneged ayin umais. We brought 70 parim, elevating the Umaseilam, Ad, to such an extent that elevation happened, the elevation of the 7, on the 7, Shal Yedeu Mitzad Umais, by virtue of their being involved in the Aveda, Nisvasef, it was added, B'Shmini, Korban Levnei Yisrael B'Beis HaMikdash, a Korban to the Yidden Beis HaMikdash. This is an unbelievable thing, and he doesn't even explain it, just says it. Why is there a day, up in the Medrash, why is there a day called Shmini Atzeres, so to speak, famous Medrash? What did the Eibishter say to us? Kasha like pridas.
I'll be with you afterwards.
Oh, right, it's hard for me to see you go. Stay with me one more day. Won't you stay a little longer? Oh, I thought you'd get that one. Ari. Okay. Stay a little bit longer. Oh, okay. Kasha like pridaschem. And so what do? we bring an extra korban, one. Shmini Atzeres, there's one korban, Shmini Atzeres. Oh, why is there one korban in Shmini Atzeres?
Israel one there.
Seder, but why? Now? Why Dafka at the end of Sukkot? Why not the same thing?
Everybody's serving the Eibishter at this point. It's clear. There's a one
Okay.
Eibishter. There's a.
What you're saying is all true, but in the context that you guys say this is true. It's not true. It's definitely true. But even more deeper, what did the Rebbe just explain to us? Who's there in Sukkot?
Goy.
Shiva Umay Sa'ilim. Why does the Eibishter say, I want just you to be here alone with me on the last day? Why does he reveal that level? Dafka, because of the Umas Elam, who were there the first 7. If the Umas Elam, Pesach, there's no 8th day. Why is there no 8th day in Pesach? Well, because Pesach is a regular holiday with regular karbonis, and there's nothing about elevating Umas Elam, and that's not what's happening on Pesach. What's Sukkot all about? Elevating Umas Elam. The Shivim Parim. Dafka Chanukah is connected to the Shivim Parim. What do the Shivim Parim got to do with this? What do the Shivim Parim represent? Elevating the darkness of Elam Hazeh and connecting it to Kedusha. And when you do that, what do you reveal? The 8th level. If there weren't Shivim Parim connected the Umas Elam in the Beis HaMikdash on Sukkot, and if the Umas Elam weren't able to come into the Beis HaMikdash on Sukkot and bring their karbonos, would there be a need for an 8th day? No. We've been alone with you the whole 7. What? It's just been us the whole 7. So why are you saying I just want you on the air? What do you mean you just want us? It's been us. Sukkot is not just us. It's such an unbelievable idea. What brings about the revelation of the 8th level? Dafka, the 7, the fact that the level of 7, the fact that the Umas Elam are in the Beis HaMikdash and are bringing karbonos all 7 days, and you're elevating the darkness of Elam Hazeh, v'chule v'chule. And on one level, you're diminishing a certain aspect of it, but that's also obviously elevating a certain aspect of it and transforming it to a state of Kedusha. Once you've transformed that to a state of Kedusha, what do you then reveal? The 8th. So the Eibusha says, well, you revealed the 8th. Stay with me one more day.
Well,
Just
when
you.
you put it like that, you wonder why the Rebbe is the only one I ever heard make the issue of the Sheva Mitzvah Neyach. But why even not, even more than that, like, than the Rebbe, why did, it's the whole thing here of Sukkot is that.
The Rebbe made such a storm of Sheva Mitzvah Neyach. He just couldn't get his Chassidim into it.
It's really interesting, right?
He just could not get his Chassidim to take it seriously. A few people did. Boaz Kelly did.
What?
Boaz Kelly did. Chassid here I think he lived in Haifa. Anyway, he took very seriously the whole thing and was involved in village after village in the north in Eretz Yisrael, talking to the lead. It's all clans. Arab culture is all clans. So you just have to get the head of the clan to get into something, and then the whole clan goes along. So, and villages tend to work on, the bigger ones are a number of clans, and that's why they kill each other. But the smaller villages are just one.
If he lived getting into the
So he went. The Galil in those days was, it was calmer. It's still relatively calm. So he would go into the villages, and there was a sign that you saw all over the Galil 25 years ago. In Arabic, a big, huge picture of the Rebbe, and it would say 7 for 70,
Wow.
770, 7
that's really
mitzvahs for 70 nations. It'd be a big 770, and then a whole thing in Arabic, which I couldn't read, all about 7 mitzvahs b'nei noach, all over the Galil. He had whole kfarim changing from Islam to Sheva mitzvahs b'nei noach.
Amazing.
He was a powerhouse. All over the Galil. He took it seriously. There's very few people who do take it seriously. It's a hard Aveda. Right? Remember, my wife was once on a plane. She was coming back alone from America. I don't know what she was doing there. She was coming back from America alone. And she was at the back of the plane talking to one of the flight attendants about Sheva mitzvahs. So it was United. So wasn't LL, don't worry. So the back of the plane, there's always people standing around the back of the plane because there's things in the back of the plane that you often have to wait in line for. So some guy from Borough Park or whatever starts talking to him. What are you talking to him for? What? So she said, I understand. You never heard of Sheva Mitzvah Neinayach? You never heard about the fact of Or Lagoyim? You never heard that Torah was given to us? The Rambam Paskin, she gives him a whole vart in Sheva Mitzvah Neinayach, and he's like, it's not, there are certain things the Rebbe was not successful getting his Hasidim to take seriously, and that's one of them. There's no question. I include myself in that. I'm not picking on anybody else. The Rebbe tried so hard. He talked about it so much. Right? And some lip service here and there, but like serious. I mean, yes, there were some amazing books published, really interesting books. Okay, but most of them were published in Hebrew for us to learn, to get us to understand Shemus V'Nerech, so then we could go, okay, Seder, okay, but how about? Right? There are. I mean, this didn't come mitam Lubavitch. It has sprung up all over America. There are communities of what's called B'nai Noach all over North America. Yeah, like what do you call it? A synagogue? You call it a church? I mean, it's not what is it? I don't know. A house of worship of B'nai Noach. It's not a church like we usually think a church, but a church doesn't necessarily have anything to do with Christianity. Right? It's a place of worship. Okay. So they're all over. And there's people who are still out there involved. But that's the pneumius of the 8 of Shmini Atzeres. That was such an amazing thing. The 8 comes from imbuing the 7 with Kedusha. Once you reveal the Kedusha in the 7, so that reveals the 8th. Because what's 8? 8 is all about bringing about the revelation of Aleph in 7. So that's by working in the 7, you bring about a revelation of the transcendent level in the immanent level of reality. And that's Sukkot. Sukkot is all about the fact that Shmini Atzeres comes about as is revealed by virtue of the fact that we've elevated the 7 during the 7 days of Sukkot. It's just unbelievable. The Rebbe just says one little line here. It doesn't even tell you. It barely mentions it. V'hine ha'inyan the mishtit shetishka chamo. Right? And this whole idea of when the sun sets, what's this in Pneumius? You light your Hanukkah licht when the sun sets. Kai beyichud al choshech hagolus. It's really talking about the choshech of Golus. Ubefrat choshech kafel mechupel deikvis of the Mashiach, particularly the doubled and quadrupled darkness on the heels of Mashiach, which is our time. And this is the instruction. This is the teaching. Of Ner Chanukah, l'kol echad ve'echad b'zman hagolus, to every single person in the time of Golus. Shekavana the choshech hagolus. What's the purpose of choshech hagolus? Ubechdei la'eder aved the mesiras nefesh is in order to arouse the aved of mesiras nefesh. The darkness produces in the Yid the response of a zoiv and it andresh. There is absolutely no power in the world that can keep me away from the Eibishter. No matter how dark that gullus is, I'm still connected to that which is beyond light. And when that level of beyond light shines in the dark, it transforms it into light. By virtue of this, he rectifies the darkness, and transforms it into light. And by virtue of the joining together of all of the avoid of all of the Yidden together, I'll call upon him at least Rubam, most of them, the Rubai Kakule, we know the majority is like all. And even through one mitzvah of one Yid, Hein b'maisa, whether or not that mitzvah is in action, hein b'dibur, that mitzvah is in speech, hein b'machshava, that mitzvah is in machshava, in thought, u'machriyas atzmei, he tips the scales for himself, ves kol olam kula, just quoting the Rambam, in the 3rd paragraph of Hilchas Tshuva, right? He tips the scales for himself, as kol olam kula, and for the whole world, the chavschus, to the side of merit. V'godim lo, is a direct quote from the Rambam. V'godim lo, and he causes for him, ulahem, and for them, shua vatzola, right? Salvation, meaning Mashiach. Right? My brother was once on a plane from LA to New York, sitting next to a shaliach who was in his mid-50s. He got up with his tefillin after the plane took off, and started looking for Yidden to put on tefillin. So he sat back down. My brother said, "I'm impressed. You've been doing this for a long time. You're still getting up on the plane. Right? When you're a bocher, I understand, but you've been doing this for a long time. You're still getting up on the plane. I'm impressed." right? So he said, I don't understand. The Rebbe quotes the Rambam all the time that one action can tip the scales of the whole world to the side of Mashiach. Who knows if it's not me putting tefillin on that guy on the plane? How do I know that? That's a pretty powerful way to live. Right? And he didn't say it like, he just said that you never know what's going to be, so take advantage of whatever situation you're in order to transform it into light. Right? So what's Ner Chanukah? Ner Chanukah is the level of light that penetrates and illuminates the most powerful expression of darkness. That's Ner Chanukah. And we talked about this earlier, but now it all comes into focus, and it's just such an amazing idea. Ner Chanukah has the power to illuminate the kitchen in countless Jewish homes where there's no kosher food, and there's no mezuzah on the door into the kitchen, and there's no tefillin in a closet anywhere in the house, and there's no Sifrei Torah anywhere. Chanukah gets in there. The Ner Chanukah makes it into that house and illuminates that house almost every year. How many houses are there like that in America? My gosh, there's a lot. Because Jews still like, any affiliated Jew in any way, shape, or form don't like Hanukkah licht. Do they know why they're lighting Hanukkah licht? Their lifestyle is a complete and total contradiction to the whole notion of Hanukkah. They have adopted Greek culture hook, line, and sinker. They probably have the 6:30 news on at the same time that they light their Hanukkah. Yeah, maybe they turn down the volume. I'm just, who knows? I assume there's a television in the kitchen. There's a television in every room. Right? It's a little one in the kitchen. It sits on the counter. It's just a little one. Right? Okay. I must say, my parents, to their great credit, we had a television. My father bought his first color television for the first Super Bowl.
What is what?
First color television for the first Super Bowl. He loved football.
1967.
Yeah, he loved football, and he used to watch football on Sundays. And he said, for the Super Bowl, he went out and bought an RCA 25-inch color TV. The reds were a little too red, and the greens were a little too green, and he got a headache watching. But it was there. And but they had a rule in our house. There was, unfortunately, Saturday and Sunday it was mutter, but no television during the week. The television was off from Sunday night until the weekend. There's no television. We don't have to watch it. So all those shows that everybody was talking about in school, none of us watched because we didn't know them because we weren't allowed to. It was a very good idea. Excellent idea. Now, unfortunately, we watched on Saturday and Sunday. Okay, fine. But and if they were out, of course, the first thing we did was run down and start watching television to save it. But the idea was a good idea. Very good idea. Valachas kama v'kama, let's finish the mimer. So that's Hanukkah. That's what Hanukkah is about. So Hanukkah is also about illuminating the darkness of Golus. And the Jew has to understand that that's who we are. We're every single one of us is, and the Rebbe talks about this constantly, a ner lahoyer, a candle to illuminate. Valachas kama v'kama, that acronym. Al yedei sofa b'kiyam mitzvahs ner Chanukah, through the increase of the mitzvah of ner Chanukah. Shemitzvah zu shayachas b'miyuchad liyeshua v'atzola. This mitzvah is especially relevant and related to the notion of salvation, Mashiach, redemption. Ha'geula, what's that? Salvation. Ha'geula sheti al yedei Mashiach, the redemption that will happen as a result of Mashiach. Mikeven sheMashiach, since Mashiach, what's he all about? He's also 8. Right? Mikeven sheMashiach, v'chein Eliyahu mevaser ha'geula, so to Eliyahu is the one who heralds the geula. He mi hashmeina nesichei Adam. They're from the 8 princes of the world. There's a very interesting Gemara in Sukkah. The end of Masechah Sukkah talks about the 7, I think Sarim. I apologize, I don't remember. The 7 Sarim and the 8 princes. And so, in other words, there's people who are responsible for revealing Kedusha in the reality of Elam Hazeh, and then there's the 8 Nesichei Adam, which are the people who are ultimately responsible for transcendent reality. Mashiach and Ben David, it says that Ben David and Eliyahu are shaykh to that, the level of 8. Inyan Shmeina Neres Chanukah, the level of the 8 days, the 8 candles of Chanukah. V'oid inyan, Another Inyan, Bashaychus and Yuchedus, the unique connection, the special connection, the special relevance of Neres Chanukah Legula Sida to the future redemption, the Kamesh and Neres Chanukah, that just Neres Chanukah Ein B'Teilim Ve'elam, they're not bottle, right? That Gemara, that medrash that we saw right at the beginning, right? When the Rebbe was asking the questions, right at the beginning. So we quoted the idea that the Mizbeach is so different than the menorah. Why? Because after Chanukah's Mizbeach, at the end of Parshas Nasai, that all of the Shvatim brought korbanos, and Aaron was feeling upset that he wasn't part of Chanukah's Mizbeach because Shevet Levi didn't bring, therefore the Kohanim didn't bring. So after that, Moshe says, "Don't worry, Shelcha Gedolah Mishelachem, yours is greater than theirs." And what's yours? The menorah. And what's theirs? The mizbeach. And what's greater about the menorah? It's never going to be bottled. And what? Hanukkah. Hanukkah will keep the menorah alive through all of the darkness of Gullus. That's what Hanukkah is, the light that penetrates into the darkness of Gullus and keeps it illuminated. So that's what that's what Moshe Rabbeinu says to Aaron HaKohen at the end of Parshas Nasai, in between Nasai and Balaischa, and the next line is Balaischa is an erist, talking about lighting the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash. It's Parshas Balaischa. Kain gam geula asida, so too the geula asida tia geula nitzchis. It will be an eternal geula, just like the menorah of Hanukkah is an eternal menorah. It's lit every year throughout Golus, so too the geula will be eternal. It'll be a geula she'ein acharei Golus, she'ein shayach. It's not shayach she'yeh acharei Golus. The third Beis Hamikdash is the Beis Hamikdash that will last. V'chein Beis Hamikdash Shlishi, so too the third Beis Hamikdash Ubayis Nitzchi. It's an eternal house, she'ein a batel le'elam, that will not be destroyed. But B'bias Mashiach Tzidkenu, that'll happen with the coming of Mashiach. Yaveh v'yigalenu, he should come and redeem us, v'yelichenu, and he'll cause us to walk, he'll lead us, kemim yisle'atzenu, upright to our land, u'b'karav mamash. So we answered all of our questions. Why is it lit at sunset, not earlier? Penetrating the dark. Why 8? We just learned about what the paninius of 8 is and how that's shayach also to Sukkot. Sukkot is also the same thing. It's the revelation of the 8, but the revelation of the 8 comes from the connection of Elokus in the 7. So by us, it's Mesiras Nefesh. That's what brings about the 8th level in Hanukkah. In Sukkot, it's the elevation of the Safcha of the Umas Eilam to a state of Kedusha, and that brings about a revelation of the 8th level, which is Shmini Atzeres, the Eibusha wants to be with us alone, so to speak. So therefore, obviously, the menorah has 8 branches, because that's what it represents. That was another question. So we answered why Dafka Parlei Chag, we answered that also, right? So the general connection to Sukkot, they're both 8 and what 8 represents. The specific connection to Parei Chag, the Parei Chag represent transforming the 7 so that ultimately you bring about the revelation of the 8th. And that's the idea of the 8th day in Sukkot happening because of the Umas Eilim being in the Beis Hamikdash the 7 days. And he said, I want everybody to leave and I want to stay just with you.
Beautiful.
Okay. Amazing. Okay, we have 3 days off. Wednesday morning we'll start a new mimer. I still haven't. I'm debate. Now there's going to be a few more people in the class. Basically, Rabbi Levenger's class is moving into this class because the winter program will move into his class. So that's a couple of people. That means Boaz, David Tamuri, if he wants to.
What?
Ezra, I don't know whether Ezra will or not. Who else?
What?
Lev. Okay, so we'll see. There might be a few people. But that we're not going to take a step back. They're going to have to just keep up. I mean, we're not going to. Obviously, I'll explain things a little more fully for them at certain times. But we're not. We're not going to go to more basic.